Welcome back to the most professional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Burkle. Here with the host today, Aaron. Go and say hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Alright, please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, in this video, we'll be taking a look at Russell Wilson, and is he on his way out of Denver? Let's talk about it. So, recently, former Seattle Seahawks running back Sean Alexander was recently, came out in an interview with, Up and Adams, with the girl from Good Morning Football, saying that he's heard rumblings, heard murmurs, you may say, that Russell Wilson may be on his way to the Atlanta Falcons. And in all honesty, I don't hate it. I kind of like it. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
In fact, I really do. Like, I'm not even trying to be tongue in cheek or anything. I actually really think that Russell Wilson on the Atlanta Falcons would be a good route to go for both him and the organization. The organization is in need of a quarterback that can kind of steer the ship and get the ball to their playmakers in Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And I think Russell Wilson can at least do that. He may not, be the same quarterback he was during the Super Bowl runs and the Legion of Boom. But he kind of proved this year that he can still get the ball to receivers that can create after the catch. He showed that with a good running game, he can still be somewhat reliable and win you at least some games. Just kind of overall, I feel like if Russell Wilson would have been the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons this year, they win the division. But what's kind of your first inklings or your first thoughts on this whole potential of him, being off to Atlanta?
So let me get this straight. The Falcons want to go from Matt Ryan, an older quarterback with an absolutely massive contract, to Marcus Mariota, who was not really old, but not really, in his prime, and they didn't think he was the solution. So then they moved on to Desmond Ritter, who
Slash
I
Taylor
mean that didn't
Heineke.
really Taylor Heineke, and that didn't really work out. To Russell Wilson, another old quarterback with an absolutely massive contract. Granted, they wouldn't be taking on that contract, but
Yeah. So this is, and by the way, let me preface this all with saying, this would be under the impression that, let's be honest, Atlanta's not going to be trading for Russell Wilson. This would be if Denver cut him, which has it's been a weird situation. There's been hinting one way and the other on whether or not the Broncos are actually going to cut him. Obviously, they had the benching at the end of the season. But according to Russ, before they benched him, they had asked him that if he dropped his whole injury clause, that they would continue to put him out there. But he rightfully chose to not decline his injury clause, and was subsequently benched because of the fact, kind of indicating that they were planning on getting rid of him this offseason, whether it was by cutting him or by trade, but were willing to cut him. This kind of showed that was the case, that they were willing to cut him, worst case scenario. And now you're kind of hearing, I know throughout the month of January, you kind of heard more so talks about Denver considering bringing Russell Wilson back, and that him and Sean Payton had a meeting, discussed this whole situation, and now we're back here to square one, to where it seems like, oh, so they are getting rid of him, and he's going to Atlanta after this, presumably. So I don't know what to think of the whole thing. It's been weird. They're talking, the Broncos front office seems to be talking out of both sides of their mouth. Am I wrong to be thinking that?
no, and I think it's because they don't really know what they want to do. I mean, they know if they cut Russell Wilson, they're sort of doomed for the next couple of years with that amount of dead cap and not necessarily being in the best spot to go after and get one of these like elite tier, quarterbacks coming out in the draft. And I'm not sure on their draft capital situation, but last I remember, they traded a lot of it away to Seattle.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's necessarily
as
true for
well as their future
this year.
franchise quarterback.
Hmm. Um, I that being said, I do kind of agree with you. I do kind of like um Russell Wilson in Atlanta. That it does kind of make sense. They've got some good young studs down there with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Robinson, and Algier in the backfield.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of that veteran guy to lead the team. Do I think that's necessarily the smartest choice for the future? Probably not. But if you want to try and make a run next year or something, next 2 years, then sure, go get Russ.
Yeah, I would assume that the Falcons would only do this with the idea that this is going to be like a 1 to 3 year situation. Like they don't plan on Russell being around for the extended period of time, obviously. But they do know that time's running out on the skill position players they have already established, like the Kyle Pitts and the Drake Londons, and to an extent the Bijan Robinsons, even though he's coming off his rookie year. Um, Clock's always ticking on running backs. And I think that if the Falcons were truly in a win now mentality, I don't know that in their current situation they'd be able to do any better than Russell Wilson as far as established guys, unless they were to go out and take a big swing at Kirk Cousins this offseason. But even he's not going to be a multi-year like he's going to be like a 2 3 year plan as well at most because of his age. Um, Now another idea that has been kicked around down in Atlanta, with Chicago having the number one overall pick, is maybe seeing if you can swing a trade for Justin Fields, um, which I think that Justin Fields on that offense in Atlanta would be really really nice. Um, but you don't know if Chicago's even trading Justin Fields. That's the other big question mark. Is if you don't go out and get Russell Wilson, let's say, uh, Chicago chooses to stick with Justin Fields and trades the first down to, like, I don't know, Washington or something, um, and takes a receiver, takes Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2 or something like that. Now you're kind of stuck down in Atlanta with nowhere to go. Maybe you get like the Michael Penix or the Bo Nix or even a J.J. McCarthy if you want to go that route for whatever reason, in the draft. But you're not going to get the Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels because you were like 7 and 8 or 7 and 9 or whatever it was. So you don't have a good enough pick unless you trade up. So as far as like concrete, we know we're going to be better than we were last year, which maybe that's not fair to say because I'm sure the Broncos thought the same thing when they got Russ. I feel like Russell Wilson might be the best solution for Atlanta, and we'll have a video coming out later this offseason about what we think they should do to improve their team and their odds of succeeding next year. But I mean, right now I'm kind of all in on the Russell Wilson to Atlanta train. I think that's the best spot for him, and I think counter to what you said earlier, I think it does in a sense make sense for Atlanta to do. Um, just to have that kind of stopgap quarterback, maybe like kind of what a Jared Goff is providing Detroit right now, for instance. Obviously, I think anybody who knows football, has watched football long enough, understands that Jared Goff is not a franchise quarterback. He's about as close as you can get potentially, but he's not quite that franchise guy. And the Lions are going to have to go out and look for a quarterback here soon, if not this offseason in the draft. And that's kind of where I feel like Russell Wilson's at now in his career, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is if you're getting him to with the expectation to succeed, then that doesn't put you in a good spot to get your top tier guy, your franchise guy for the future.
That's fair.
So that's burning more time on the skill position players that you already have.
Okay.
So my thing with stopgap quarterbacks is, um, getting you to the playoffs, making a run. Are they good enough to do that? Because you're looking to sort of kick the can down the road in a sense,
Right.
kind of like Alex Smith with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
We did good, but we were able to trade up enough, and he fell enough that we got Patrick Mahomes, and then the rest is kind of history there. So, but I mean, I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. One last point I want to kind of bring up. You had mentioned the contract situation being really bad, and obviously, of course, he would be cut in this situation. I don't think, and I saw another YouTuber mention this in a video he did, and this is kind of actually where the idea of this video came from, if I'm being honest. Microphone is his YouTube name. He also has a basketball channel that I'm blanking on the name of right now, but his football phone
It's a
is
good
just called
channel.
is. Oh, you watch him too? Yeah,
Well, I've heard of him. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen
He's
some of his
he's
videos.
he's he's really good, very entertaining. But yeah, he came out with a video about Russell Wilson potentially being off to Atlanta. He had mentioned that yeah, Russell Wilson's contract's really bad now, but think about what his contract's going to look like here in 2 years, when Dak Prescott signed his extension presumably. Um, Brock Purdy has signed his extension presumably. All these other Joe Burrow, who's already kind of signed his. Mahomes, who signed his. Josh Allen may get another one soon. I'm not sure when his is due. All these top tier quarterbacks, they'll by the time they'll be getting paid during what is currently Russell Wilson's contract. May or may not be by the end of this offseason. Um, Russell Wilson's probably going to not even be top 10 highest paid quarterbacks here in 2 years. So I don't think his contract's quite as bad as we all, me included, thought it was when he signed it. Obviously, now it's been bad for the last 2 years because they haven't done shit with it. But going forward, I don't think it's as big of an issue as we may perceive it to be, because the market is being shifted every single offseason. You know.
I think what made it bad was, obviously older quarterback,
Yeah,
questions of his abilities back when he was in Seattle fading,
that is true. That is true.
in the amount of years that he got. He got like 6 years, like a
Yeah.
6 year extension.
Yeah,
I thought
I
that
guess the
was
length.
absolutely crazy
Well,
to
and I
be locked for that long, and then to have this amount of dead cap
that's true. And
on your books.
I think the length was kind of going back to my point where it's like, oh well, in 6 years this isn't going to be bad though. Yeah, but you're still having to pay him in 6 years, and is he even going to be a starting level quarterback in 6 years? Is kind of where you're coming from, and I totally think that's
hmm
fair. Yeah, I totally think that's fair to point out. Yeah, in that sense for sure. But got anything else to add about the situation?
It'll be fun to watch. This should be an interesting off season.
Yeah, yeah. We'll hopefully provide you updates throughout the off season. I mean, we should be providing you some updates. Hopefully, they're fairly relevant at the time they're released. That's going to be our real main issue, I think, is just being like timely with our postings this off season. But we do plan on being as active as possible for us, and hopefully have some fun. Have a lot of new, different forms of content just to kind of fill the space because there's not as much news going on. So be on the lookout for our videos. That we'll be posting the next few weeks. I think we're on the brink of something really fun. Maybe not special is the word because that's a little cheesy and corny, and we only have. Thank you to all 35 subscribers we have at this point. We're so blessed to have you guys, but it's not exactly like we're on the precipice of 1,000 or 100, 100,000 or anything cool. Um, but hopefully this is kind of like that first step in us getting to that point, and I think we're on the right track. I definitely think we've made some improvements through the last season, coming back from hiatus. Uh, we're coming off now the most successful week we've had as far as views and watch hours goes. So we appreciate everybody who's watched the last week. Um, but yeah, I think we expect more of the same, but better as well, if that makes sense. I guess. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the videos we put out this offseason. So I think that'll do it for this episode of the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Next Circle Burke. I'm here with my co-host today, Aaron. Go and say bye, Aaron.
Bye.
All right. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content and want to see where this crazy ride takes us from here. But other than that, it's been a great NFL season. Be on the lookout for more videos this offseason. Deuces.